In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the engine oil pan on this Honda Accord with the 3.5 liter V6 engine. Let's get started. From underneath the vehicle, let's drain the oil. If you look on the passenger side right here, you'll see your engine oil pan with the oil drain plug. In my case, I'm going to use a 19mm socket to break this free, although I don't believe that that is the original factory size. So if it's not a 19 for you, use whatever size fits on your drain plug. Break it free. Have a collection pan underneath to catch the fluid once you've removed the drain plug. Keep pressure on it as you unthread it so that when it's on the last thread, oil doesn't come splashing everywhere. You can control when it starts draining. There we go. Once it's down to a drip, you can plug this up. Thread the drain plug in all the way and snug it up. We have to remove this shield, or at least allow it to pivot forward so we can get better access to the oil pan. So take a trim tool and pop off all the push clips. Some of these are in very poor condition, so I will be replacing them. At this point, we can fold it forward like this and use a bungee cord to hold it. Do the same on the other side. We now have to remove the exhaust because it's in the way of the oil pan. Use a 14mm socket, remove the 3 mounting nuts that hold the front pipe onto the manifold. Do the same on the pipe that comes off of the rear manifold. This one came off with the stud, that's okay. Ideally, next you disconnect this flange right here so the exhaust can be in 2 pieces, but that's not what I was able to do since this is so corroded. I don't want to compromise this flange. So what I did is I just undid a couple hangers, which you can also do by just popping them off of their hanger here, and move the exhaust pipe out of the way, support it with some bungee cords just like I did. Then you can do the rest of the job like this. On the back of the oil pan, there is a cover that covers this crank position sensor. 2 10mm headed bolts hold this bracket on. With those removed, you should be able to pivot this out of the way. Behind it hides the connector, which you can squeeze right on this locking tab, pull it off of the crank position sensor. Move that bracket out of the way, pull this connector up. Let's remove the sensor while we're at it. 10mm headed bolt. We do have to transfer this to the new oil pan. A lot of times these do get stuck. So what I'm going to do is, with the help of a flathead screwdriver, try to push it back and forth, up and down, left and right, just to break that O-ring free. Obviously, we don't want to break the sensor itself in the oil pan. So if yours doesn't even want to budge, just wait until the oil pan is out, and then you'll have much better access to it. There it is. This little O-ring is what was holding us up. Right in the center where the flywheel or the flex plate is, there's a cover. We're going to have to remove this. 2 10mm headed bolts. Remove the cover. Right next to this cover that we just removed, you'll see 2 17mm bolts. Remove both of these. Another one right up here. And another one on the other side near the front exhaust pipe. All 4 of these bolts are identical, so it doesn't matter where you put them back. Now you want to go around and loosen up all 10mm headed bolts that hold this oil pan onto the engine. One last thing right back here, we have a bracket. This is a 12mm mounting bolt, and this one right here I believe was a 12mm. Now because I can't remove this, I'm just going to bend this bracket out of the way. My bolt is fairly corroded. There we go. Once you're completely certain that all the bolts are out, all we have left to do is pry the oil pan down. The only thing holding it on at this point is the sealant that goes around it. Careful of where you pry. You don't want to cause damage to anything else. The oil pan does have some dowel pins that it sits on, and oftentimes they corrode in place. All right, and there it is. There is still oil left in here a little bit, so have a collection bucket ready. Remove any old gasket material that's here. Now let's get to cleaning. Use a razor blade or a gasket scraper to scrape off the old gasket material and any other debris that is built up here. The reason you want to use those is because they are less likely to gouge the surface. This being aluminum, it is very soft. So all you want to do is just get it nice and flat and clean, and then we'll degrease it and seal it back up. Go around the entire surface of where the oil pan seals up and clean everything off. With the entire area cleaned up, let's wipe it down. This will also give us a great opportunity to inspect the surface and make sure it's not damaged, such as has gouges, scratches, or any significant corrosion that may occur. That does happen sometimes. Now what I will do is go around the same surface with a clean paper towel or rag with brake parts cleaner on it so I can degrease the surface so that when we put the new oil pan up, it actually seals up much better. Oil does not mix well with RTV. With our new oil pan on the workbench, let's apply a thin bead of RTV around the entire surface of the oil pan where it seats up against the block. Now, keyword here is thin. You don't want a lot. These are two flat surfaces. You want it just enough to seal up, but you don't want it to squish out, go into the oil pan on the outside. Yeah, sure, it doesn't look great, but the most important part is on the inside. You don't want it to clog up your oil pickup tube. So go around the whole surface, and once again, a thin bead all the way around. Now with a clean glove, I'm going to make sure that everything is smoothed out and even all the way around so that one area doesn't have more sealant than another and everything can seal up right. Quickly go around one more time to wipe off this surface so that any oil can be cleaned off. Take your oil pan, carefully slide it up into position. There we go. It's got some dowel pins, and once those line up, start in a couple bolts so you can at least let go. Now start in the rest of the bolts. Note that I did not tighten any of these, I just bottomed them out so the pan can be slightly pressed up against the block. Now at this point, I'm going to also put these bolts in right here, the 17mm headed ones, but once again, I will not be tightening them. I won't tighten these ones at all actually until all of these are fully torqued because I want the pan to be pressed up before it gets pressed onto the transmission. But I do want everything started so I can make sure it's all lined up. Once again, there are 4 here and they're all the same. As the RTV is drying up and setting in, I'm going to go around on a first pass with just a ratchet and snug everything up. I'm going to do this in 3 different passes. The first one was putting all these in and getting them close. Second one is going to be snugging them. And the third one will be the final torque spec, which we'll get to in a minute. For now, I'm going to go in a cross pattern and starting from the center bolts, working my way to the outer bolts, snugging these up so the pan can seat fully. The torque for these is 8.7 foot-pounds. That only applies to the 10mm headed fasteners, whether they're the short ones or the long ones. I'm going to go in a cross pattern first. Once everything is torqued, I'm going to go around in a circle to double check them all. With all of these torqued, I'm going to go around again in a circle to double check all of them. All right, these are all torqued. Now snug up these 17mm headed bolts. The torque on these is 54 foot-pounds. Reinstall this cover. It's easier to start in the lower bolt first. Once you do that, it'll hold it on so you can start in the top bolt. Snug these up. You don't need to make these very tight, they just hold on this cover. Bring this bracket back in and install the bolt. Take your crank position sensor, slide it back into its hole in the oil pan. Press it in all the way, make sure it's seated. Now we just have to turn it so that the bolt hole lines up. Start in the bolt. And give it a quick snug. About 1/8 of a turn after it bottoms out is plenty. Once the sensor is seated, all you want this to do is hold it on there, and you don't want to strip this out. This is obviously going into an aluminum oil pan. Take your wire and resecure it. Connect it, make sure it clicks. Bring this cover back on and resecure it. Before you tighten this one, install the other bolt. That way you make sure it's all lined up. Snug both of these up, but don't over tighten them. Let's put the exhaust back up. It's a good idea to replace the gaskets that go here, although if you had to, you could reuse these. Snug these up. .40 foot-pounds is the torque for these mounting nuts. With the rear hardware installed, snug this up as well. .40 foot-pounds on these as well. Now fold these shields back in and put back any push clips that were holding them on. With our new oil pan installed, it's important to double check the tightness of the drain plug. The torque on this should be 29 foot-pounds, so let's torque it. Use a 17mm socket. That's plenty tight. Now let's replace the oil filter, which you'll find on the passenger side right behind the wheel. You can access it from underneath, and typically you should be able to just remove it by hand, but sometimes they get a little bit stuck, so you might need an oil filter wrench. With the help of a wrench, loosen it up. Have a collection bucket underneath because it will leak once you remove it. There we go, just let it drain for a second and finish removing it. With this removed, inspect the surface here and make sure that no debris is in the way, but also that no gasket is left behind. That O-ring that sits on top of the filter, you want it off of here. Otherwise, when you put the new oil filter on, you could double gasket it and that will not seal up. It'll start shooting oil everywhere, and not only will it make a mess, but you lose oil pressure. So make sure that this surface is good to go, which it is, so we can get our new oil filter ready for installation. I prefer to fill up the oil filter as long as I can, and because this one mounts upright in the vehicle, it is possible to do so. This prevents a dry start from the filter being completely empty. So use some of that 5W20 oil, fill it up. This is what we'll be using to fill up the rest of the engine. Now you don't have to make it completely full, but putting some oil in there will help along. With a clean glove, I'm going to dip it right in this oil that's on top and lubricate the gasket. This will prevent it from sticking on in the future. Take your new oil filter, line it up, and thread it on. It should thread on nice and smoothly. If it doesn't, that likely means it's cross-threading. That's bottomed out right there, so I'm going to give it about half a turn after this, at most. There we go. By hand. You should not be using an oil filter wrench to tighten these. Just give it a half a turn by hand, that's plenty tight. Under the hood, on the front valve cover, you'll find your oil filler cap on one side and the oil dipstick on the other side. That's how we're going to measure the oil level once we're done filling it. Remove the oil filler cap, set it aside. I'm going to put in my funnel. Now the total capacity with the filter included on this engine is 4.5 quarts of oil. So count whatever you put in the filter and then add the rest of your 4.5 quarts. Once you've put in your 4.5 quarts, remove your funnel, cap this off, and let's measure the oil level on the dipstick. Pull the dipstick out and wipe it off. What you want to look for is the oil level to be right at the top here. Anywhere in between the two dots means you have some more to add. If it's over, that means you've added too much oil. Dip it back in, all the way down, and bring it back up. If you look closely, you can see that the oil is right at the top, which is perfect. Now, if you haven't started your engine yet, it'll be a little bit higher, and then once you start it and let it sit for a little bit, let the oil go back down in the oil pan, and you measure it, it'll be right up here on the full line as long as you've added exactly 4.5 quarts of oil. Put the dipstick back in, turn the key to the on position. This will display your odometer and tripometer. And what you want to do is use this dial right here to cycle through all of the screens. And once you press it enough times, it'll show you your oil life. Once you get to this, hold that button. And after you hold it for a few seconds, the oil life should start flashing. There we go. Now, just a little quick note. These codes right here are maintenance codes. You can check your owner's manual or do a little bit of research to find out what they mean. This is actually code B1 and B2, not B12. There's no code B12 in here. So I'm going to hold this button down, and that will reset my oil life. There we go. Oil life is now 100% reset. So if we go out of this and then check it, it should say that the oil life has been reset. And there we go. So A is actually what your oil life is. The B codes are other services that need to be performed. So just a quick tip on that. Now that our oil life has been reset, we can exit this menu. And there you go. Shut the ignition off. Take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.